How well products are adhering to AAFCO. Bakers, remember, UK's #1 pet food, 100% complete and balanced. No room for messing around here, 100% complete and balanced. As I said, Tixon did a test on those on a random sample of 12 of the most popular diets on a single supplier's website and sent them off for analysis. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them failed. 6 of them blew out their AAFCO minimum profile laws or rules. 6 out of 12, 50% of the products tested had issues. The first one's excessive in sulfur, second one excessive in sulfur and calcium, third one double the amount of sulfur it should have, the fourth one just annihilated calcium and phosphorus, on and on and on, mainly in calcium, phosphorus and sulfur. Not very, very good, is it? Okay, pity somebody wasn't checking them. In fact, when you check pet foods, the studies are done on pet foods, they say, how well are they actually sticking to the AAFCO guidelines? Of 29 wet cat foods analysed, 60% of the budget brands, 18% of the premium, and 43% of the super premium foods fail to meet AAFCO standards. That's not good. 73% of 33 dogs fail to approve adequate nutrition for dogs at a maintenance level. And here, check this out. Of 170 complete pet foods sold in the UK, 94% of cans and 62% of dry foods fail to meet AAFCO's minimum guidelines. Can you believe that? 94% of canned foods weren't meeting the minimum guidelines. 62% of dry foods, nearly 2/3 of them. That is very, very bad news for pets living long on most foods. When you check the bloods of the animals living in these, they look very, very bad. 7 out of 20 were outside their reference range for vitamin B12. A quarter of them were outside their reference range for folic acid. 5 out of 20 for iron, because they're using iron oxide. 12 out of 20 for carnitine, that amino acid that they say they make themselves, which is very worrying for all the other amino acids they're supposed to be making themselves. Why aren't they? Because you're not giving them any protein. And 10% of them were deficient in their minimum required amount of protein. Bloody hell, lads, that is so bad. And also, we know it's not complete food because adding literally anything to kibble results in improvements for the dog. Study after study after study. There is hundreds of them where you just add something and they do better. Adding protein results in better kidney function in dogs, better weight loss programs, reduces injury in sled dogs, as we discussed. Leafy greens, carrots, and squash reduce bladder cancer in Westies by like 70 to 90%. Honest to God, check out the study. Adding blueberries reduces oxidative damage and slows cognitive decline. There was blueberry studies in sled dogs as well, very interesting. Adding fish oil boosts skin health, reduces arthritis, steroid need, loads of studies there. Adding glucosamine and chondroitin, yeah, that's why they do it. It does work. Adding vitamins, chondroitin more so than glucosamine. Adding vitamins boosts antioxidant pathways, reduces ill health, increases longevity, reduces time spent sick, all this kind of stuff. Adding zinc improves skin, on and on and on. Adding literally anything to complete food, 100% complete balanced, and the dog benefits. How did he benefit if it was 100% complete and balanced? Oh, okay. A quick drink of water. Solutions. Okay. What are the solutions, Conor? What have all these animals got in common? None of them have a clue what their RDA of calcium is. None of them have a clue how much zinc they ate yesterday. None of them have a clue where they're getting their protein from. They don't know. We have kids and we look at them and we go, you know, I have no idea what I need to feed you. And I try and feed you it, you know, and I know you should be eating more plant matter and you won't. So very simple. We don't have these percentages and exact kind of quantities at all. We know that farm animals reared on real pasture are far healthier, less disease prone, have less Salmonella E. coli, are more nutritious at the end point. Same with zoo animals. You don't give them kibbles. You give them real food, behavioral enrichment, and all the rest. Okay, nothing replaces real food, guys. And it's the same for your cats and dogs. It's important to note that complete raw diets suffer the same issues dry foods do, because the word complete is complete nonsense. They evaluated 200 homemade diets from multiple sources and recipes that people were putting out. 65% were written by veterinarians. Only 2% of the recipes were deemed nutritionally complete by these guys, and supplements were not included. These guys actually believe that you have to eat supplements every day to hit your vitamin and mineral requirements, which gives you some idea of who's writing the study. But look, the point is, yes, okay, it was not balanced according to AAFCO, if AAFCO was ever any measure of balance. So you need to remember that you can't feed one single raw diet all the time either and expect everything to be tickety-boo. Although Honey's Real Dog Food showed you absolutely can achieve and go well beyond the AAFCO FEDIAF minimum guidelines when you feed pre-made raw dog foods and just vary them So they did the same idea as a feed profile, but they used people at home, 26 adult dogs at home over 26 weeks. Very, very nice. Fed a range of complete foods, and they mixed them and said, look, do this one for a week. They did that and that, and mixed it around. And the dogs were absolutely fine for their vitamins, minerals, and protein and that kind of thing. So quite obviously, but they proved it, and that cost them money to show that. It's quite simple, but it involves variation. Because minerals don't come to you, vitamins and minerals and nutrients don't come to you the same way every day in life. It's not just an even trend of I must eat this amount every day or I'll die. You know, they come to you in nature in spikes of, oh, there's a bit of something. There's a salt lick, and there's an animal. I'm going to drink this blood, and then I'm going to eat this. It wasn't a lot in that. And then, you know, that's it. That's life. That's how we get on, and things are okay. Sometimes we have horrific weekends of poor food, and we look back and go, oh, I need a salad. You know, that's life. If you're using pre-made raw dog foods, some tips. Choose well-made pre-mades. Okay, whatever your definition is of that, just have a look at the company, get a feel for who they are, because there's just as many cowboys in this industry as there is anywhere else. There's money to be made, guys, selling stuff for pet owners. It was the last market to decrease in 2009 slump. Okay, we stopped spending on our kids before we stopped spending on our dogs. So you know, it's a profitable market, and where there's customers, there's predators. You know, so lots of meat is important in these products. A good range of organ meats, you know, liver, heart, kidney at a minimum. You'd like to see a few others in there as well. Don't fall for all the window dressing at the end of the product. Oh, we use fish oil and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, do you? Do you use the same quality fish oil I'd like to think you're using? No, of course not. They're using gallons of the stuff that's sitting on the supermarket, on the factory floor for a while. And, you know, it's just not the same stuff that you would buy in the local health shop. So don't fall for the window dressing too quick. Add the window dressing in yourself. That's a good tip, because you will buy better quality and it'll be fresh and all sorts of stuff, and you'll use more of it. So vary up the flavors and suppliers. It's all about variety. Balance over time. Don't stick with any one flavor. Don't stick with any one supplier. Move around, guys, and that's how you're going to get it. Add your own bits into the bowl is most important. Meat and eggs and whatever, anything with a face, as they say. Blood, if you can get your hands on it. Sardines are fantastic. I like to feed them from frozen. Small oily fish, essentially. They call them sardines, baby herring, sprat, whatever you call them yourself. All raw dog food manufacturers are starting to sell these because they know we want them. It's a rare source of brains and eyes for your dog as well. So it's fantastic. They prefer them frozen for some reason. More dogs prefer them frozen than sauce. Probably something to do with the way eating the fish and the scales and stuff. Muscles for manganese. If you're not going to feed hair and feathers and hide and the outside parts of the prey animal, that's where all the manganese is in a body. When you take that all off the prey, there isn't actually much manganese in a body at all, and you would actually risk being deficient over time. So things like mussels and a number of other ingredients have been. I just like bags of frozen mussels that we can get here. There's a Scottish mussel industry, is unbelievable, and we get bags of these frozen mussels. So there's little bit round balls of meat, brilliant omega-3s and protein and all sorts of cool stuff. And I get a handful of them, you know, these at your feet, are trying to make dinner, boom, out into the back garden. Go on, enjoy yourself. And he's gone for 15 minutes. Lovely. Eating them out of the ground. Those are soil probiotics. Meaty bones, raw meaty bones, very important. You can read my article on my website, How to Do It Safely. Animal hair and feathers, as we said, that's the right prebiotics for dogs. They do want a little bit of that in their diet, but it's very hard to convince the raw dog food manufacturers to do it. Crushed up seeds are great. Pumpkin seeds to keep the worms away. Medicinals like herbs, mushrooms, dark berries, garlic, whatever goes. Yeah, can you feed garlic? Yes, you can, guys. It's in the onion family, but it doesn't have any of the thiosulfate that people freak out about. Please read the article Garlic on my website. Good quality salt. Raw dog food is completely absent of salt. Good quality salt is where all your electrolytes are. Really, really nutritious. If you're making your own treats, put the salt on them. So he's an extra tasty treat, because why not? Life is too short. His life is too short, as I always say. Allow natural foraging for your dog. If you're doing DIY, do a little reading. Join a group, get some advice, pick up a book. That's a fabulous one there, feeding dogs one. That would be a good idea, because your vet's not going to be able to help you. And so you need a little bit of reading if you're doing it yourself. But I just like to copy the pre-mades. What are you using? And what are all the cool window dressing? That window dressing they're using is usually to adhere to the AAFCO profile. So there's probably a few nutrients in there you haven't thought of. Vary your meat ingredients and suppliers, as we said already. Beware of online diet formulators. I just wanted to say this, guys. Like those other 4 pictures I showed beforehand, and with the sun bear and the cow and the human, that are eating these nutrients and not knowing what they're eating. We don't know what we're eating. So I do strongly question feeding an animal like this. Okay, this isn't really normal. Okay, there's a lot of chat that, you know, when you're setting out, you need to know exactly what your dog is eating. No Excel spreadsheet. Okay, particularly ones that's coming from the US. So I'm here in Ireland, and instead of buying my blueberries from greenhouses in Egypt and Spain and stuff where a lot of the fruit comes from, when I taste the blueberries, I go, they just don't taste of anything. They really don't. They're just these big things that just don't taste of anything. But when you get blueberries that have been like freeze-dried blueberries from the wild forests of Scandinavia, you cannot compare those two berries nutritionally. The ones coming from the wild and organic, like they're nutritionally stuffed full of phenolic compounds and anthocyanins and stuff, blowing the greenhouse who've grown in the same soil every day, you know. So yeah, it's the same with the meat. A lot of the meat in the US, over 90% of the beef comes from CAFOs, concentrated animal feed operations, fed wheat and corn for the first year of their life, maximum growth, and then slaughtered in not nice situations. They are really appalling, you know, those CAFOs. And that is not to be compared to the grass-fed beef that we have. It's just not nutritionally not the same thing. So your organ meats are not going to be the same as my organ meats nutritionally. So there's many problems with the animal diet formulators. Okay, they might put some people's minds at ease, but I would prefer to say, guys, you don't eat percentages. You don't eat it like that. You need to have an idea of what the dog eats and understand variation and quality of meats and stuff. This is really reserved for when dogs are very sick. And we need to fine tweak some things, you know, and that can be handy to have an idea. Go, oh, okay, he's got no vitamin K, is, you know, whatever reason. So yeah, but I would be wary of using that for the guys that are starting off on their own. If you're nervous starting off, just feed pre-mades and vary them. That'll do you. The guys making those pre-mades have already thought about it, you know, and then you can add your own bits to the pre-made and slowly make your way over to DIY as you learn more and get more confident. But the idea of using this sort of stuff is unnecessarily complicated, and it serves to freak you out and slow you down, in my opinion. As I always say to people, what's your RDA of calcium? How much calcium did you give the kids yesterday? You don't know? You're a terrible parent. You know, of course we don't know that. We just know that the stuff they should eat, and we cross our fingers. Studies show humans are up and down in their nutrient contents all the time, you know? We're doing okay. This, in my opinion, will be a fairly well-rounded recipe. I like this recipe, you know. Just take a picture of that. I don't need to go through it. This will be decent, you know. That would be the Rolls Royce. And so if you can feed something like that to your dog and then mix up the meats and mix up the plant ingredients now and again, I mean, that is just, you're lucky dog. You would be in the top 1%. Very easily done. You do it up every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's another video. If you're wondering how to do make raw dog food, you can check out one of our webinars. So I think there's time for a new approach here, certainly for as raw feeding starts to take over. For dry food, a new optimal nutritional profile is badly needed. They need new minimums for proteins, and so they need an optimum for protein essentially, and they need maximums for carbs. They need to drop those carb contents down quickly. They need to use bioavailable vitamin and minerals, not just these oxides and sulfates and crap that they use. They need maximums for salt, for God's sake. Absent ingredients need to be included: glucosamine, chondroitin. No, it's just, that list is hundreds long, believe me. Collagen, a new list of forbidden ingredients. Okay, so they're now starting to use grapes in pet food. Can you believe that? Using grape pomace, a result of the wine industry, they're using that in pet food now as well. You can't be using that stuff, guys. That's not right. For raw, a new optimal nutritional profile based on dogs fed real food under real conditions. So that's really important. Like, so we want dogs out in the wild doing their thing. Test them. How are they on this food after a month? Okay, there's no average dog. It's ridiculous. So an optimal nutritional profile. Why can't we have that? We need better regulation. What we have is non-existent. There is no regulation in Canada. There's no pet food regulation, and yet some of the best brands come from Canada, which makes me very worried. What we have is Department of Agriculture that obsessed about the microbiological content of your food, but nobody's checking the nutritional status of the food. Nobody in Ireland, nobody in the UK. Nobody's taking foods off the shelf and saying, hang on, this is not 15% protein and 10% fat like you said it was. Nobody's checking. If they're using the ingredients they're saying they're using, nothing. All they care about is salmonella, coli, zero. Fine, doesn't matter then. You can say what you want. Can you believe that? In the perfect world, what they have at the moment would be the very minimum. Everyone would know that that's the minimum. If you're feeding that is supermarket minimum nutrition for a little while. Okay, that's what that food is for at the moment. So that's pet food companies that are licensed and registered with your local pet food manufacturing association, whoever that might be, and you're using the AAFCO minimum profile. That should be seen as the absolute worst. Okay. Tier 2 would be a silver member. So, you know, these are things that they can charge for. They can make money out of this. It self-funds because companies want to be part of this. I'll put these figures on the end to say it's not impossible to do these things. It just needs to be done. You know, a group needs to take it on, and some groups have tried to bring that in. You know, there's a group called Raw Safe in the UK who are trying to bring in this level of audit where it's kind of like, right, we're going to bring in some checks here. Who wants to be part of Raw Safe? Very, very quiet. 2 or 3 manufacturers put their hands up, in 100 raw dog food manufacturers. So tier 2 silver members, like let's say they're DEFRA licensed, they're local licensed, the Pet Food Manufacturer Associations are registered with the government, Pet Food Manufacturer Association. Okay, and they're using the new nutritional guidelines that we come up with, whatever they might be. Okay, but they're not verified. So verifying those is difficult. It means that they have to hold their hands up and be willing to be audited. So that's a thing. And they have to be willing to do 2 random tests for microbiology each year. That's to keep everybody in check, because microbiology is still the #1 reason that pet foods, dry and raw, are being pulled off the shelves. So that needs to be monitored. And the Department of Agriculture aren't doing a good enough job. There needs to be some sort of independent audit that's just done automatically. You know, buy it from the supplier, send it straight to the lab, or buy it from somebody else, because suppliers will know. And then tier 3 will be a licensed pet food manufacturer association, new nutritional guidelines adhered to, but that's verified by random tests. So if you want to say you're using the new nutritional guidelines, the optimum guidelines, we're going to test your products once or twice a year off the shelf. Makes sense, doesn't it? 2 random tests for a micro each year, 1 random physical audit of your factory to make sure that the ingredients you're saying you're using in those products are actually going in. Okay, you've sold this amount of tonnage, you've said you've used this amount of fish oil, therefore you must have bought 150 liters of fish oil. Can we see the purchase documents? Things like that. Very basic stuff, but that's just a dream. I like putting that out there for people to mull over. So it might be more detailed than most of you are expecting, but anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to contact me at info@dogsfirst.ie. And other than that, please check out the rest of my webinars, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.